Hey guys, welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Ashley Mova, and this is the Daily Show. We give you all the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Leading off the show today is John Campea.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. It's the last movie talk of the week before we break for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today.
Also here, Jon Schnepp.
Yeah, I'm out sounding a little weird today. I've got some Novocaine right here. I just had some tooth work done. What's going on, everybody?
Tooth work.
Tooth work.
It's about to get weird. Also here, Kristian Harloff.
Schnepp, give me a nice paragraph. Just say something great. I want to hear it.
All right. Well, a couple of days ago, I was walking down the street, and I found out that I
Stallone,
couldn't
ladies
really
and
talk.
Oh, now I know who you look like. Former Canadian Prime Minister Jacques Chrétien. Only Canadians will get that, but if you get it, you're going to love it.
Good job, eh?
Well, also here's Jeremy Jahns.
Schnepp's iPhone 7 was only on stun when it exploded on his head, but hey, we're all alive and well here at Movie Talk.
All right, guys. Well, hey, listen, a little trailer drop that's not in our sidebars here. So, Ashley, what's going on?
Paramount has released the first Silence trailer online. Martin Scorsese's long-in-development film follows two Jesuit priests, played by Adam Driver and Andrew Garfield, who go looking for their mentor, played by Liam Neeson, in 17th century Japan, a time when outsiders, and especially Christians, were treated with disdain and mistrust. The film opens in theaters on December 23rd. John, what do you think of the new trailer for Silence?
Just give it all the awards. Just hand them over. I loved it because it had a couple of. What was that one? The De Niro film. It had the feel of two different films for me. It had The Mission, and then it really had that feel of that old miniseries Shogun, based on the novel. I think it's James Clavell who wrote the novel. It had such a perfect feel of both of them. Driver impressed me, and he had limited screen time in it, but Andrew Garfield, man. This is the year of Andrew Garfield. Between what he did in Hacksaw Ridge and what he's going to show us in this, Liam Neeson looks outstanding. It looks like it has scope. The cinematography looked breathtaking and beautiful. If you haven't seen Shogun, I highly recommend trying to dig it up and find a way to watch it. It looks like it's going to dig into that Japanese culture really cool. I thought it looked spectacular. I loved it. Anyway, Schnepp, you had a chance to take a look at it. What did you think?
I think it looks incredible. I mean, you don't know too much about, like where did Liam Neeson go? You know, these two guys are sent to go find him, and then it's just a series of incredible images. Like, I mean, those three guys getting crucified in the water. It's like just stunning, horrifying images, and you see themes that Martin Scorsese deals with all the time, like questioning faith, and it's very religious based. So, I mean, it's
actually, you and Dennis did a actual live reaction to it a little bit early this morning. That's going to be up on the channel where you guys watched it for the first time.
Yeah, I think Dennis talked more than me, but
You remind me of Anthony Hopkins in Legends of the Fall. That's
come on, screw him.
What do you think about the trailer?
I loved it. I think that the Mission meets Last Samurai is kind of where I was going with it too, because I had felt that, but it was also cool to see Qui-Gon / Ra's al Ghul with Spider-Man and Kylo Ren.
And Steppenwolf showed up.
Right.
It's everybody.
The movie, I mean, it's Scorsese, so that obviously has a lot of gravitas to it, just knowing that he's going to be putting his stamp to it, but it seems, it's going to be intense. And you're absolutely right, though. Andrew Garfield, it was 99 Homes the beginning of this year, or was that last year?
I think it was last year, was it not?
It was last year. But I mean,
that was
guy,
amazing.
He's one of those guys. Remember when when Social Network came out and everyone was obviously talking about Eisenberg, but keep your eyes on Garfield, man. You see why? Because I agree with you. Hacksaw Ridge, it's very possible that he can get nominated for that, and let's see if that cancels it out. This cancels that out, because he once again, there's just something about him, that intensity, and it adds to a movie like this. And you're right. Adam Driver stood out to me in this film, so it's a movie that I was looking forward to just from the names attached, and couple that with the trailer now, and I'm on board.
Jeremy?
Yeah, it's got the credentials, it's got the acting, it's got the actors. It's a Scorsese film with, when I saw it, it's like, the Christians are going to, we're mixing religions. That always works out. Always. With Scorsese intensity, with the acting that we've seen from these actors, we know what they're capable of, and then this trailer shows us what they're capable of in here. Looking forward to it right now. Can we get screeners for that, day after tomorrow? Let's do it.
Maybe soon.
I mean, it's funny because it's limited release to qualify for the Oscar.
Yeah.
Right. It's in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And they're just putting out the first trailer now. But look, let me harp on this before. I've been saying this for a long time with The Social Network. Everybody did talk about Eisenberg, but I said from day one, this Andrew Garfield kid First of all, he was robbed of a Best Supporting Actor, I think, win. I think he was he didn't even get nominated. And I thought he was robbed. He was the beating, he was the soul and the humanity of that movie. You take him out of that movie's got no humanity in it. And I just thought he was brilliant, and I loved him as Spider-Man. Think what we will about how the second Spider-Man movie turned out. I didn't think he was the problem. Just seeing him develop now, he is going to be the name, I think, for a while.
Yeah, I agree. Would you ever do that thing when you watch a movie and you think, if this person is nominated for an Oscar, what's the Oscar clip they're going to show?
Oh, right.
For Andrew Garfield, it would have been that shot where he walks out of the room, takes the laptop, slams it down, and just gets in his face. That was totally thought that I was going to see that in the Oscars, but didn't.
All right, what's next?
Just like Disney and Sony did by making a pact to bring Spider-Man into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, some fans have been hoping for a similar arrangement for 20th Century Fox's X-Men and the Fantastic Four. But unfortunately, Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige put the brakes on that talk during a recent interview. While speaking with Variety about the crossover potential, Feige said, "It's an impossibility at this juncture. We certainly have enough films to keep us busy for a number of lifetimes." John, what do you think about Feige's comments about the X-Men and Fantastic Four joining Marvel?
They just make sense. I mean, look, the Marvel Cinematic Universe does not need the X-Men. They're doing great without them. The X-Men Cinematic Universe does not need the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They're doing, box office wise, they're doing just fine. And one of the things I've always said was, look, trying to combine an Avengers and X-Men movie, it is a monumental feat. What Joss Whedon and the Russo brothers have done with taking the cast, the size of the Avenger films and Captain America Civil War, and make it feel balanced and make it feel right with the characters and all that kind of stuff, is monumental. It's Herculean what they did there. To do the Avengers with a cast the size of the X-Men, it's too much. You get a lot of people say, when you hear like 4 characters being in a movie, going, it's getting overcrowded, but give us Avengers versus X-Men. And I've never understood. I think that would be a fun 5-minute YouTube video, would not be a fun movie. It wouldn't be a fun movie. It would be a 2-hour slog fest with 2 or 3 really fun scenes, but it would fall flat as a motion picture and as a film. I think what Kevin Feige here just completely makes sense. I think even if they could get X-Men, having like 12 members of the X-Men and 12 members of the Avengers in one movie, it's going to, all you're going to do is dissatisfy a lot of fans. It's like, why wasn't there more Wolverine? Why wasn't there more Spider-Man? Why wasn't there more Captain America? Why wasn't there more Cyclops? Because you couldn't do it. It's just not possible. And Kevin Feige's just saying kind of what we've been saying around here the whole time. They've got so many characters in the MCU that they haven't even really touched on yet. They've got so many characters already in movement that we're waiting for 2nd and 3rd and 4th films from. It just makes sense what he said. I don't know, Schnepp, you heard about this. What do you think?
Well, it totally makes sense as far as the X-Men goes. And I think I like that the X-Men is over at Fox, because we get X-Men movies all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to get scheduled into these other Marvel films. I do feel that the Fantastic Four is going to come back to Marvel, and he's just like Spider-Man. He's playing like, oh, I don't know what's going to, no, it's never going to happen, and it's just going to happen. So I still have hopes for that, but not for X-Men.
What do you think?
I love that every time Schnepp and I are like, but the Fantastic Four. I mean, they could do it. I mean, I'm forced to be in a situation where I'm going to take Feige's word for it, because he knows the business of what is currently going on more than anyone else out there. So if he says it's not happening, I have to assume it's not happening. I'd like to see an X-Men crossover. I would have liked to have seen an X-Men crossover of sorts, not with all of them, but say a character like they did with Colossus and Deadpool. But if Logan is Hugh Jackman's last run as Wolverine, that whole Wolverine coming into the Marvel world, it won't be what they want. Because when people say they want Wolverine to come into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, what they mean is they want Hugh Jackman's Wolverine to come in. And if it's another guy, it wouldn't be the same anyway. So yeah, it's probably not going to happen.
Kristian.
It's unnecessary and not needed for X-Men, like you guys are saying, because and I believe Feige on that side of it. I'm with Schnepp, where I don't believe him on Fantastic Four, because he said the same thing about Spider-Man. And with Spider-Man, the difference was, and I think X-Men have, or Wolverine, I think they have something to do with the Civil War comic, right? In some aspect, but Spider-Man's so front and center that they wanted to make him pretty much, I mean, he is front and center for those scenes, and he made an impact, so they went out, they got him. And the other reason why it was necessary for Sony to do that, because they were in trouble. Well, Fox is in trouble with Fantastic Four. They're either going to lose the rights and it'll go back to Marvel, or they're going to make some kind of deal. I happen to think the rights are going to go back to Marvel, and we'll use Fantastic Four. I think that it makes sense for them. They're beloved characters when done right. You say it, and you're right. The Incredibles is the best Fantastic Four movie that has been made thus far, and we certainly know Marvel can do it. So I think that the emphasis was on X-Men, as it should be, because when Matthew Vaughn saved X-Men, which he did with First Class, and then Days of Future Past followed up, and then Deadpool hit, that franchise is not in trouble. They have a lot of building room. They don't need Marvel. They don't need the cinematic universe, and it would be too overcrowded. But Fantastic Four, I'll go ahead and make the prediction. Within 2 years, you're going to find out that they're coming back to Marvel.
Here's the interesting thing about Fantastic Four. I mean, you're right. The situation with Spider-Man was very, very, very different, because we all said for years, Spider-Man is never going to the MCU. But then when we heard about how much financial trouble Sony Pictures was in, we all started going, hey, anything could happen at this point, because they were in... Fox is not in financial trouble. Fox isn't in any financial trouble at all. So here's the interesting... This is the one problem with Fox giving up Fantastic Four to go over to Marvel, because I want it to happen. This is the one time I want a character that's not in the MCU's pocket, that I want them to go there. But here's the trouble. What value... and how much need does Marvel have for the Fantastic Four? Because Fox won't let them go for free. I think they should. I think Fox has taken 3 swings at the bat, and
doesn't it run out though if they don't make a movie in a amount of time?
If they don't.
Yeah.
But so will Fox just say, okay, we give up? I don't know if they're just going to say we give up. So if they go to Marvel and say, okay, we're willing to let you have Fantastic Four back, but we want X in return. Does Marvel then go, yeah, we need Fantastic Four badly enough that giving up X is worth it to us? That's, to me, the wild card in all this, and how that might work out.
You know, I've said this before, but I think I might change the way I think about it, because I was saying, well, Marvel should just give Fox all of the X-Men ancillary rights, like the video games and the toys, because Fox doesn't have that. That all they can do is put out a movie, but they can't get that money from Wolverine toys or video games. Marvel and Disney get all that money. So originally I was like, just give it to them. And now I'm like, no, it's not worth it. It wouldn't be worth it for them to get the Fantastic Four back and to give up all that money from the X-Men universe of comic books, video games, toys, all the ancillary stuff except for the film. So I think there's some wiggle room there where they can make a deal.
Fox is too scared to make Fantastic Four again. The first two,
I hope you're right.
The Tim Story ones were so
horrible,
were so bad, and then this last one was one of the biggest disasters of the year. Plus all the backstage drama, and they have a successful franchise in X-Men. I think they'll be too scared to try it. Plus the fact that it's very similar to what happened with Sony, as where the fans after Amazing Spider-Man 2. Schnepp led the charge on, like, we don't want to see you do this anymore. Right. Fans are saying, stop doing this. You don't know how to do it. And when Marvel's out there and the fans go, give it back to Marvel, at this point, Marvel's not going to make that deal. They don't need to make the deal. They're just going to wait and go, come on, let go. We'll catch you.
Yeah, that is interesting that Marvel is in the spot where they're like, we don't have to do anything. We're just gonna.
Right.
It's like when China said we're gonna take America without firing a shot. That's pretty much where Marvel is. It's like, we'll just wait, and then you're gonna do what you do. Oh, thank you for that. By the way, it was free.
Yeah. Here's the other thing. Marvel. Let's not forget about history here. Marvel found themselves in a spot not so long ago where they were in financial trouble, and they thought, well, you know what? Let's sell off the movie rights to X-Men and Deadpool and Fantastic Four, because we're probably never going to do anything with those guys anyway. And now they kick themselves that they did this. I think Marvel has learned their lesson about giving away rights to things just because you don't think you need them now, when you might need them 20 years from now. And so it just creates a really cool, fascinating web that we get to see, no pun intended, that we get to see unravel a bit and see how this plays out. Look, for me personally, I hope Fox just realizes we're doing good with X-Men. We clearly don't know what we're doing with Fantastic Four. Let's just let it go. We're not making it. I just doubt they're going to do that. But I hope they do. All right, what's next?
In a huge write-up on Rogue One in the latest issue of Entertainment Weekly, head of Lucasfilm Kathleen Kennedy was asked if there would be another trilogy of saga films after Star Wars Episode 9, or if the Star Wars universe could exist on Star Wars story anthology films only. She told EW, I have to honestly tell you, could we do nothing but standalones? Sure, but I don't know. We are looking at all of that. Kristian, what do you think about the possibility of only standalone Star Wars movies being released after Episode 9?
Somewhat predictable. We've talked about this on Jedi Council many times, that this would make sense. I don't think that means it's the end of it. I think that what would happen, that what they should do, to be honest with you, is go 7, 8, 9, then start doing a bunch of standalones, and then come back with 10, 11, 12 in like 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it is, build up the anticipation once again, like they did. Not to the extent of episode 7, but give us more. Once we find out how this trilogy ends, then if it's like, oh, well, they definitely could do more, and we start like formulating what could happen 5, 10 years, and then we find out 5, 10 years later. But the standalones, that's where you have to, because I've always said that I think if they could do 2 movies a year, but if they do it this way, they don't necessarily have to. Meaning, if they come out with an Obi-Wan movie, they could do an Obi-Wan trilogy and do it every 2 years, and then have another standalone in that spot for the year. So there's a way for them to world build and expand the universe, whether it's in the Old Republic or whether it's right before Episode 1, or if it's the time period. I think is the perfect time period that they haven't explored at all. Is in between 5 and 6, or even after 6. There's so much to do. There's so much that they can tell. So I think it would actually behoove them to take a break from the saga films for a little bit and just do the standalones once a year.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think you need to keep the saga film going. I think you need to have
continuously, like, right away.
Yeah, I think like by right away, like every 2 years, a thing comes out. Because here's the thing, I think it really helps the cinematic universe as a whole to have your one main timeline that you are following and you're going through. And a lot of people say Star Wars is always about the Skywalkers. No, it's not. Star Wars Episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1 wasn't even really about the Skywalkers that much. You just had a Skywalker in it. But there's so much Star Wars stuff, 1,000 years. Forget the 5 years in between episode this and that. There's like 8,000 years of stuff going on before Episode 1 that you can jump. There's so much stuff you can mine. You talk all the time about Old Republic stuff, and I completely agree with you on that. I just think you can continue the story. You can go to episode 10, 11, 12, 13, and they don't have to be Skywalker family or auxiliary Skywalker family focused. You can move the focus off certain characters and move them on to the next, but keep that overall timeline marching and going while you then throw in these anthology films. I think they've set up a really good system right now with, alternating years, anthology, episode. I think it's a great pattern. I hope they continue it, but I wouldn't be surprised, because what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't be surprised if they take that on. Anyway, Jeremy, how do you think they should do this?
It's funny. Both of you have your points of view of Christian's going the route of Star Wars as it's been. John's going the route is as Marvel as it is. And I initially was thinking, okay, they're going to do Star Wars as it's been, where it's like, all right, you have every 10 years there's a hiatus, and then you have the episodes, and then you can do the spin-offs and create a new world and then have your episodes. But Disney has seen, and Disney owns Star Wars, is when you have, let's say, your standalone movies like your Doctor Stranges, your Captain Americas, your Iron Man, you have those every 2 years. You have your Avengers, which would be your Star Wars, your numerical Star Wars film. They've seen that as a multi-billion-dollar franchise.
Right, yeah.
And so I imagine they are going to look at their business as they've handled Marvel, and they're going to be like, all right, we're going to have our spin-offs and then our core story, spin-offs, core story being the Avengers every 2 years if the Avengers are the numbered Star Wars movies. And I think they're going to stick to that because that's worked with Marvel thus far. They're going to translate that to the Star Wars world. So I think they're going to go your route, but I was initially seeing your route, which is Star Wars.
I think they go back to that route. I just think because you build up a little bit more anticipation for it too, because if you jump right back into 10, 11, 12, it's going back to what you're saying as far as the saga, an Old Republic, if it comes out down the line, you give yourself a chance to make a trilogy of those films if you do it this way for a little bit. Because if not, then it becomes tougher, and you have to go to 2 movies a year. Because if you let's say they wanted to do an Obi-Wan trilogy, and they put out Obi-Wan as these saga films are going on, that's what they're beholden to. Then you have to wait for the Obi-Wan every 2 years, and then the saga film every 2 years. If you're not doing 2 a year, you have no chance to do like a new, I don't want to say a Yoda movie, but like a Yoda movie or a Boba Fett movie. It becomes tougher to do.
I think they should make a Yoda movie where he's just hanging around, cooking soup, cooking stew on Dagobah.
I would watch that movie. I'm in the middle of what you guys are talking about. I feel the Star Wars saga films are Skywalker films from from the prequels all the way through 7. 7 is definitely a Skywalker film, and we'll find that out in 8 and 9. And I think once that trilogy is over, I would like a break of 6 years so that they can let those characters grow and develop, and whatever the storyline from episode 9, however that's going to end, will be triggering episodes 10, 11, and 12. But I think if you give it a little break, then we can see an Old Republic, and we could see another Han Solo and a Ben Kenobi film, and we could have all these different, because it's a giant world that Star Wars is now. I'd like 2 movies a year that don't have to be saga related.
All right, guys. Well, listen, it is Wednesday, which means it's time for us to talk about Rewind, brought to you by our friends at AMC Theaters. This is the segment of the show where we talk about the films that are turning 10 years old this week and the films turning 20 years old this week. And there's a couple of doozies in here. Okay, first of all, celebrating their 10th anniversaries. We have Deck the Halls is turning 10 years old this week. We have The Fountain, which feels like it just came out like 3 or 4 years ago. And we have Tenacious D and The Pick of Destiny turning 20 years old this week. I cannot believe this one. Star Trek First Contact turns 20 years old.
Crazy.
Jeremy Jahns almost fell out of his chair in staff meeting this morning when we read that. Jingle All the Way also turns 20. And of course, Shine turns 20. Academy Award winning film Shine. Schnepp, you see this big list. What are the films that really stand out to you?
Wow, Jingle All the Way. That's 20 years old, and Star Trek being 20 years old. They feel like they're in different universes. Like Jingle All the Way feels 20 years old. Star Trek First Contact does not. So those are the ones that stick out to me. And The Fountain being 10 years old. That's a really, really amazing film. So definitely check that out.
Jeremy.
Oh yeah, Star Trek First Contact. I remember seeing Star Trek First Contact and Jingle All the Way around the same time at the same theater, so it shouldn't surprise me. But like you said during the staff meeting before, I was like, wait, what turns 20 years old? Like Star Trek First Contact. I remember watching it. Such a great Star Trek film. Wrath of Khan, Undiscovered Country, First Contact, and Star Trek 4, because I love Star Trek 4 in its own like fun way.
The one with the whales?
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's a great one. But I mean, First Contact showed me that the great Star Trek films were not dead yet. I can't believe it was 20 years ago. That's blowing my mind.
What about you?
You talk about episode 1 being a Skywalker story. Jingle All the Way. I had little Annie and Sinbad. We're fighting. We're running. It was very good. You should watch it. It's Jingle All the Way. I remember how, obviously big Arnold fan, and I remember watching that movie going, "This is awful," in such a great way.
Yeah.
There's some really funny laugh out loud moments, but it's a terribly fun movie. And I've never been a Star Trek guy, but I remember when that movie did come out. It's crazy that it was 20 years ago, but those are the ones that stand out.
Shout out to Phil Hartman in Jingle All the Way, though.
Oh, sure.
Dude was hysterical then.
Yeah.
He's still hysterical.
I
when I see
miss
him.
Phil Hartman.
Yeah, he was
Troy
actually
McClure.
the first celebrity death that I cried at. I
I
never
still-
met the guy, but I bawled when he
I was
died.
shocked.
Yeah.
I was shocked. Remember him in So I Married an Axe Murderer?
Yeah.
So good. All right, guys, we reached that part of the show that we are calling Would You Rather. This is how we're going to do this, much like Buy or Sell. Ashley's got a few other items of world movie news. She's going to run them down. We're going to talk about them a little bit and then play a little game of Would You Rather with each story. So, Ashley, what do you got?
With Disney planning on releasing a new Star Wars film every year for the foreseeable future, one movie the fans have been asking for has been the standalone Boba Fett movie, rumored to be directed by Josh Trank. Now, EW has confirmed that the film was far enough along that Disney and Lucasfilm even had a teaser ready to screen at Star Wars Celebration 2015 in order to officially announce the project. Sources tell EW that at the last minute, the split with Trank backburned the project and canceled the teaser. Jeremy, what do you think about the Boba Fett teaser being scrapped by Lucasfilm at the last minute?
That is a bummer. But I feel like, what would we have gotten for a teaser? Would we just like get a voice of like, "He's no good to me, Dad," and then like the title comes up? Who knows what we would have gotten? I do want to see a Boba Fett movie, but if you give me a Boba Fett movie, for any question that you answer, you give me 2 more questions. You keep the mystery on that guy. You treat him like Dredd. You never take off that helmet, man. I want the mystery of the Fett to stay alive. But I would have liked to have seen a teaser. Just depends on how they would have handled it and what they would have given me.
Schnepp, your reaction to find out they actually had a teaser ready to run at Celebration for this.
Blows my mind.
Right.
I wonder if it was similar to the teaser that they showed, where it was just some TIE fighters with
For
a
the Rogue One
Death
thing.
Star.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think this Boba Fett film was taking place, before he met his demise in the Sarlacc pit. So this was like an earlier, middle years Boba Fett, where I think he was actually going to cross paths with Han Solo. So who knows, with the Han Solo movie, we still might see that one shot of Boba Fett where later we could see Boba Fett, the reverse angle of it. So
Kristian?
Are we doing the Would You Rather now?
We'll do that in a second.
Okay, sorry. My thoughts are, as far as the as that teaser goes, that's exactly what we would have gotten, because we were at Celebration. We saw the way that they set that up. It was just kind of, they made it just to get the excitement going. That's exactly what they were going to do for Boba Fett, and I'm glad it didn't happen. I've been saying that I think, for me, a bounty hunter television series to me is way more intriguing. I don't care about watching how Boba. We know that he was a clone. We know that some of the things that happened to him in Clone Wars. I don't need a Boba Fett movie. I've never been excited about a Boba Fett movie. Bounty hunter series, though, in the underworld, straight like gangster stuff, like Sopranos stuff. Yeah, that I'm interested in.
All right, so then with you guys, I'm giving you an insight on this. Let me ask you now your would you rather question. Would you rather, if they actually went through and followed through and actually did their Boba Fett standalone movie, or would you rather hear them announcing an Obi-Wan standalone movie? Kristian, let's start with you.
100% Obi-Wan Kenobi. If you haven't read the Marvel comics about the Star Wars story with the standalone Obi-Wan Avengers, that proves it can be a movie. There's so much that he is doing in between that time, and no one says that he's beholden to stay on Tatooine the whole entire time. He can do other things and still keep an eye on Luke in the interim. So I think it's a great idea. Ewan McGregor wants to do it. Obi-Wan.
I would rather an Obi-Wan movie. Personally, I'd rather them not do any of the existing characters we already know. But if I had to pick between the two, I want Obi-Wan. You're right. There's a lot of, and I would like them to keep it on Tatooine. I think there's lots of things you can do with him on Tatooine. I don't want a Boba Fett movie. Don't want it. I love him the way he is. I want it staying there. What about you? Which one would you rather?
You know, it's that fan-made Obi-Wan trailer that makes me lean towards Obi-Wan, because you see the potential. But forever I have thought Boba Fett, because there are things they did in Clone Wars. It just kind of it lifted the veil on Boba Fett, and now you have no more questions about Boba Fett. You're like, oh, I know he's a clone. I know he's this. I know he was this kid. I want them to do a thing to where he's actually not that kid. The Boba Fett that we got is not the Boba Fett that's
it's like Dread Pirate Roberts.
Yes, kind of. That's exactly what I thought of Dread Pirate Roberts. Like, maybe he conflicts with this other dude, kills him, and now the Boba Fett that we always knew was not actually that kid. But again, I feel like they could do a Boba Fett movie and keep the mystery alive and make the badassery like they did with Dredd. So I'm going to say, in the years of culmination that I've had in my head of this fan fiction that I have conjured, I want to see Boba Fett.
Schnepp, which one would you rather?
Who's the actor who played Creed?
Michael B. Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan should have been Boba Fett. That's all I'm going to say, because I would have seen that movie. I would rather see a Boba Fett film. I mean, I would also love to see a Kenobi film too, but I wanted to see a bounty hunter film, a Western film done in the Star Wars style. So I still want to see that. Right.
All right, what's next?
In a recent chat with Hey You Guys about his upcoming film Allied, producer Graham King confirmed that the Tomb Raider reboot would be an origin story for Lara Croft. A lot of rumors had pointed to the Tomb Raider franchise going back to the drawing board since the recent video games were rebooted in the same manner. Here's what King had to say about the plot of the upcoming movie. While this is kind of what we call a back to the roots story, this is a young Lara Croft in search to see if her father is dead or alive, so it has a very emotional part to it, and I think that's what Alicia found so interesting about it. Schnepp, thoughts on the Tomb Raider movie being an origin story?
Sounds cool. I mean, I played the brand new Tomb Raider, and it's really well done. And it was a really fun action adventure game with a female Indiana Jones. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they're doing with this. And it sounds like by adding that kind of element of like the missing father, that's going to have some emotional impact.
Jeremy.
Yeah, the Tomb Raider franchise, let's just be honest. Back in the 90s, they made Tomb Raider so gamer boys could have a hot chick to look at while they played games. And they realized there was a cool character story in there just recently within the last few years, and they made these new Tomb Raider games, which actually made it relevant. So I think that's a good take. The Tomb Raider games they made, which is a Lara Croft origin story, they're great games. So I think this is a good route to go, and it makes me look forward to the fact that that's how they're seeing it.
Kristian.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the people who maybe not the hardcore gaming fans, all we know about Tomb Raider are the Angelina Jolie movies, and the lore isn't so steep that you're like, oh, wait a minute, you have to stick to it. We've seen this already. It's not like Spider-Man where it's been told a million times over before. And Alicia Vikander is one of these actresses right now.
Academy Award winning Alicia Vikander.
Alicia Vikander is just someone that you want to watch and you want to see. She brings so much emotion to the character that I want to learn more about this version of Lara Croft and understand exactly what she is, how the origin began, and leading into this franchise, which I'm sure they're hopeful to do.
All right, so for you guys following along, we got to ask you and you guys the question. Now that we know all this, Alicia Vikander, it's going to be an origin story. Would you rather next week this Tomb Raider origin story movie come out, or would you rather a Last of Us movie come out? Schnepp, let's start with you. Which one would you rather?
The Last of Us, automatically. I saw The Girl with All the Gifts, which is very similar to Last of Us kind of storyline. It's fantastic. I want to see The Last of Us.
Jeremy.
Oh, there have been a couple times already on Movie Talk in the past couple weeks I've said The Last of Us, and I'm not changing my answer now. The Last of Us for sure.
I'm actually going to go with the Tomb Raider one. I'm really fascinated with Alicia Vikander being in the league, going back to an origin story. I think post-apocalyptic zombie-like stories are a little played out at the moment. Although I'm dying to see both of them, but I'm going to lean towards Tomb Raider. What about you?
I'm going against what I just said before, though, too. Is just because we've had Tomb Raider movies in the past. I would like to see The Last of Us, just because it's new. It hasn't been done before on the big screen. Anyway, the movie itself. So,
You know, that's the funny thing about this would you rather thing. It's like by saying one, you're not saying you don't want to see the other one.
Right.
That's why this is hard. You're like, well, I want to see both. I have to choose, I guess.
All right, what's next?
The early box office tracking numbers for Rogue One, A Star Wars Stories, are in, and it is very good news for Lucasfilm and Disney. Per THR, the film was expected to hit at least $130 million domestic in its opening weekend on December 16th, with some tracking services even pegging the total as high as $150 million. That would be an impressive start for Lucasfilm's first ever Star Wars spin-off and would mark the second biggest December opening weekend ever, behind Star Wars The Force Awakens. John, thoughts on the box office tracking for Rogue One?
I think this number makes sense, although I'm going to peg it around 147 at this point. Although a lot will depend on when the first reviews come out, the first audiences see it. Because if audiences come out and the critics come out of seeing early screenings and they start raving about it, you could see this number get into the 160, 170 range. I think 147 would be a really nice number. Again, it would be the number 2 all-time December opening in history for a story that is confusing some people right now. It's outside of the episodic story. This would be a great result. I think they should be happy about it. So, yeah, I'm kind of down with it, but I'm going to peg the number 147. What about you, Kristian?
150, just round that side. I think that 130 is a good guesstimation on their part, but you don't count out the Star Wars fanboys, and that's not a disappointment whatsoever, because it is a different movie. People don't know where it is. They're going to lead with Vader, which is interesting, but 150, which will be it's going to be the second highest opening of all time, and it doesn't have that build up like Force Awakens did. It was so many years before you got a Star Wars movie, so you're never going to capture that again. But this is going to be a big opening.
Jeremy?
Oh yeah, never underestimate Star Wars fans that will watch the movie twice if it's good.
Yep.
Actually, twice if it's bad, 3 times if it's good in that opening weekend. I'm just saying. Yeah, so I think that 150 is a pretty good mark to hit, and it, like you said, it does come down to the critical reception. The early reception is like, oh, hey, guys, it's good. And people are like, all right, fine, I'm getting another ticket because I already bought my first one. So, yeah, these are good numbers. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, this has Jurassic World made 150, didn't it?
No, Jurassic World
Opening weekend?
204 or something, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like 175. I'm going to say that just because it's the return of Darth Vader.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of people like, we don't know where this fits in with the other Star Wars movies, but you see Darth Vader in a scene in a commercial, you're going to see that movie. That's how I feel.
I want to. Okay, so now knowing what we know, having seen all the commercials we've seen, having seen all the trailers we've seen for Star Wars Rogue One and all the anticipation, would you rather actually on December 10th go in and see, with everything you know about Rogue One, go and see Rogue One on December 10th? Or would you rather walk into a theater and see Star Wars Episode 8 that you know nothing about? Jeremy, which one would you rather do?
Okay, so the question is, would I rather see Rogue One or just, hey, surprise, guys, Episode 8?
Yeah, and you can only pick one. Which one would you rather?
Oh, my gosh. You went to me first? I got to think about that. I would.
You can't jump cut edit your way out of this
No,
one, John. Which one do you want to do?
Jump cuts. I'm
Quick,
telling
do some
you,
jump
this is
cuts.
freaking
Do
me
some
out.
editing. Do some.
Well, I mean, on one hand, I mean, Rogue One. There's a lot riding on it because it's a spin. It's the first Star Wars spin-off. So I mean, a lot rides on that movie. On the other hand, we get to see what happens with Kylo Ren, Rey, and the crew of Episode 7, and we get to see Luke Skywalker possibly bust out. All right, we get to see Luke Skywalker possibly bust out his lightsaber and fight Kylo Ren. I'm gonna say Episode 8.
All right, Episode 8. Schnepp, what about you?
You also get to see Luke Skywalker finally talk.
Yeah, right.
Man, you know what?
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Schnepp?
No, it's
There's no
not. I'm
jump
going to
cuts.
say Rogue One. Because, you know why? Because I know that we're getting Episode 8 next year. It's 1 year. It's worth the wait. And I want to see this new take on the Star Wars that I grew up
It's a
with.
very good point, but someone's going to break their leg and it's going to get pushed back 6 months.
Okay, let's put it
No.
this way. If somebody told me that we are going to see Luke pull out his lightsaber and kick ass. I'm going to episode 8, but as of right now, I don't know that.
Right.
I'm telling you.
So I'm going Rogue One.
All right.
Yes, so I mean, just to make sure, because this is a very hard
Yeah,
question.
yeah, right.
So am I? When am I allowed to see episode 8?
You
Next
have to
year?
wait another year. You'd have to wait another year.
And same thing with Rogue One. I have to wait another year to see Rogue One.
Yeah, you'd have to flip flop.
Yeah.
Well, then I would see Rogue One because I've already set my expectations to wait for episode 8. I know that I'm going to see that saber stuff, but I want to see how these standalones are going to work. I want to see Vader again, and I want to see Vader kill everyone.
You know what's funny is you also read the book leading up to it, which I was like, oh, I mean, I know where Harloff's going on this.
How close are you? Close?
No, I'm going to read it over Thanksgiving.
All right.
I'm into the book right now, but I want to ask the girls this too. Wendy, you had a choice. December 10th, you can either go see Rogue One or you can go see episode 8. Which one are you going to go see?
You broke Jeremy Jones over there with that question. You're breaking my brain right now.
Right?
I think I'm going to go with episode 8. I want to see what's going to happen with Rey. I want to know if Luke's going to talk. And, R2's back too, so episode 8.
Thank you,
Wouldn't
Wendy.
it be hilarious if all of episode 8 is, Luke, what should we do next?
Yeah.
He doesn't actually speak.
Points.
He just points at things. Ashley, what about you? You had to pick one to go see. What are you going to go see?
I'm going to go see episode 8. I want to see the story continue. Yeah, I want to see the story continue.
All right, what's next?
While John Wick co-director David Leitch preps his next project in Deadpool 2, co-director Chad Stahelski has his own thing going on with a new reboot of the Highlander franchise. According to THR, Stahelski is on board to direct the film, while the search for a new group of writers has begun to work with the filmmaker. A release date for this movie has not been set. Schnepp, what do you think about a Highlander reboot directed by Chad Stahelski?
There can be only one. I love this idea. I think the Highlander, the original Highlander, the Highlander 2, the Quickening, all the Highlander movies, they're fun, but I'm going to stick with the very first one, the Queen soundtrack. Bring back the Gorgon, or what was his name?
The Kurgan.
The Kurgan,
Kurgan.
thank you. The McLeods
Kurgan.
must continue. I want to see a Highlander film. And I think bringing in the other director of John Wick is fantastic because that means we are going to get incredible action scenes. So I can't wait to see this new Highlander. I'm really jazzed about this.
Jeremy.
I got to address two things. First of all, I'm pretty sure on every day this week that someone who worked on John Wick is getting work and we're talking about it. Those dudes are just crushing it. Two, the first time I was on Movie Talk, the first time we actually met and we did Movie Talk together, I said, a remake I would like to see is a Highlander remake. So I'm not reneging on this. I'm going for it. I think Highlander is one of those films where you could do it right, and again, it's another remake which would prove or could prove why remakes should be embraced, not shunned. It could be very good. I like Highlander 1. That's the one I like.
It is in my top 10, continues to be in my top 10 all-time favorite films is the first Highlander film. I would love to see them take another crack at it with modern sensibilities, bringing the John Wick, one of the John Wick directors, into the Highlander universe. Are you kidding me? I love it. What about
This
you?
is very smart. Highlander is screaming for a modern-day remake. It is screaming for it because of everything that you can do. If they could have done those type of effects back then, it would be way up higher in your list because there's so much more you can do with that franchise. And having this director, you're right, Schnepp. You're going to see some amazing action inside this thing. So it's a perfect
Can I just mention
choice.
the similarities between this and The Crow and how different? Like The Crow's had multiple sequels and TV series. Highlander has had multiple sequels and TV series, but the Highlander, the concept for the Highlander, it makes sense to make another movie and try to make that work. The Crow, it just doesn't feel that way.
Okay, so let's get to the question. Would you rather go and see a movie directed by the John Wick director remaking The Highlander? Or would you rather see the John Wick director remaking Conan?
Oh, what a tough one.
Schnepp, let's start with you.
Oh, that hurts. See, we don't even know this is a brand new segment. I didn't know it was going to be Conan. Come on. Crom! I'm going with Conan the Barbarian. I've been waiting for a really good Conan the Barbarian. I would rather see the Wick director do the Conan the Barbarian. Even though I love the Highlander idea, now that you mentioned Conan the Barbarian, that sounds fantastic.
Kristian.
Ha! Crom laughs at you. I'm actually going Highlander, man. I think we've tried Conan before without Arnold. It didn't work. It was a miserable, miserable failure. Even when you had Jason Momoa in there, garbage. So I would rather see Conan the King. If you're talking about that
King
movie,
Conan, dude, with
Conan.
Schwarzenegger.
King, but that's not a
what-
remake. That's not a remake. That's a sequel. So
They could do whatever they want.
remake and sequels are different.
Let's make it easier for you then. Let's just say instead of a Conan remake, let's just say,
Conan-
in very
King
general
Conan?
terms, a Conan film.
King Conan, then.
All right, I'm
Absolutely.
still going to stick with Highlander. I think there's enough. There's so much great mythology like he had with the Continental and John Wick in the Highlander. Great sword fighting, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to stick. I love them both, but I'm going to stick with Highlander. What about you?
I'm gonna stick with however many segments we can do to have Harloff do his Arnold impersonation. Everyone that comes up, I'm like, here's another one. But yeah, oh, dude, I'm going Highlander on this one, man. It's just the quick, fast pacing, the interest. I mean, Highlander is such a unique story that someone thought up that it should have its place in the remake world. Not that Conan shouldn't, but I've been waiting for Highlander for longer than I've been waiting for Conan, so I'm going to go Highlander.
All right, guys. Well, listen, we do the show live, so we're going to save a little bit of time at the end of the show, take some of your live Twitter questions. Start sending in your questions now. Make sure you're following us on Twitter, @Collider Video. Start firing in some questions to us there, and Wendy's going to pick a couple out. I want to remind you that Movie Talk is not the only show popping up on Collider Video today. Earlier this morning, we popped the new episode of Nightmares, our horror show. That's on there. Of course, Jon Schnepp, who's sitting at this table, is in that show as well. Make sure you check that out. Yesterday, the Team Movie Trivia Schmodown went up with the Wangers versus Team Mega Powers. That's a fun one. Make sure you go and check that one out too. Mailbag will be up as normal this weekend on Saturday and Sunday, so make sure you check that out as well. All right, it's time for us to get to our mailbag. Listen, if you've got a topic or a question you'd like us to address on the show, just email us anytime at collidervideo@gmail.com. Maybe you'll see it on the show. Maybe you'll see it on mailbag on the weekends. You'll never know until you fire a question in. So, Ashley, what's in our mailbag today?
Jonathan writes, "Hey Collider crew, thanks to your nifty video, I now know how Oscar nominations work, but where does Oscar buzz come from? For example, Passengers, Silence, Hacksaw Ridge, Manchester by the Sea, and Arrival are all films that have had Oscar buzz before their release. Sometimes these Oscar buzz films don't even get good reviews or even end up with more than a few technical nominations. Looking at you Unbroken, is this a studio thing, a critic thing? Who's making these claims, and more importantly, why do we buy into it all the time? Thanks."
Well, a lot of times, remember, a lot of these Oscar films, while they don't open till late December or whatever, a lot of times they will open at festivals. And they will play at festivals where a lot of the higher end critics will get to go and see these films. Like our friend Scott Mantz, right? So like Scott Mantz was one of the first guys months ago who started saying, guys, first of all, he was the first one that I heard say, well, there was La La Land and Hacksaw Ridge. Right. He goes, guys, these movies. Well, and a lot of times that's the origin of the Oscar buzz stuff. When you get these movies that you know the studios believe in because they're putting it late in December, that's right around the Oscar where they can capitalize a potential Oscar buzz, and they play them at these festivals where a lot of these higher end critics get to see them way earlier than the rest of us, and they start putting out the word early. That most of the time is where it comes. It doesn't happen often. Sometimes when you get an Oscar buzz film that doesn't get good reviews, usually that's when we all just assume it's going to be an Oscar kind of film. A good example of that is Gangster Squad. Like we all saw Gangster Squad, you look at that cast, you look at the filmmakers behind it, blah, 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 this is going to be great. But not one critic ever said this thing is great. We just thought automatically, sure, this thing is going to be a thing. And then it came out and we were like, look at that. But I don't know, what would you guys add to that?
It's festivals for sure. Sundance and TIFF are usually the ones that it comes out there. And then third is Scott Mantz. Every time there it is. That's the one. That's it. 2016. That's your winner. So that's usually how it happens, those Sundance screenings and TIFF.
Yeah, festivals for sure, and then it comes out to like other critics and whatnot, and then people start. I mean, sometimes it's just obvious. Like that performer, like when I saw Training Day, I was like, Denzel is going to be nominated for Alonzo Harris. I can tell you where Oscar buzz does not come from, and that is my YouTube channel. You all know that.
I think it's a combination. I mean, early critical buzz, but then once the film comes out, if it resonates with the general public,
sure,
that's when that magic storm.
All right, what's next?
Yankee Doodle Dandy writes, "Hi people, do you think the reason why the MCU has weak villains is because Marvel wants their heroes to shine instead of the villains taking away screen time from the heroes? Thanks."
That is absolutely 100% why. Kevin Feige has made it kind of plain and clear that part of their formula is that keep the focus on our heroes. Those are the people that are most of our audience cares about more. They simply use their villains. And look, not every movie should do this, but this is something that works for the MCU. They use their villains simply as the motivating factor to put into motion the events that the heroes have to go through. Their movies are not about their villains. So that's why I get into some arguments with some people sometimes that said, well, if they had Doctor Doom, he would be a great villain. And I had to tell them, guess what? If the MCU had Doctor Doom, they would use him the exact same way they use all their other villains. Doesn't matter if he's great in the comic books. They'll use him to promote the hero. They'll use him to push the hero. In wrestling terms, he's there to be a jobber. That's what he's there for. Now, sometimes they use their villains better than other times, like Malekith was just a waste the way they did that, but Loki, they used him great. But still, the focus point of Thor was Thor, not Loki, although Loki has been a standout. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. They use the reason the villains don't come across as highlights is because they want the focus to be on their heroes. What do you think?
Schnepp, do you feel like that jab about Doom was about us? Schnepp, I feel like it was about us. No, I mean, I agree with you. It works for what they're doing. It is a pet peeve of mine that their villains don't stand out more, but obviously, financially and critically, it works. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So that's where we are.
I also think Marvel sold a lot of their villains to the other companies, like Doctor Doom. They can't use Green Goblin. Now they can with Spider-Man. Magneto. I mean, some of their biggest, most heavy hitters who stand out like Loki stands out aren't in their roster. So we get a couple of the lower grade villains, and you're right, they're used to promote the heroes. So I mean, I think as we move forward, we'll see bigger and badder villains to fight the heroes, but it'll always be about the heroes.
I think it's always about the heroes, but I think it's going to change a bit. I think you bring up the point with Spider-Man. Spider-Man has some of the most interesting villains out of all of it. So I think that we're going to see that as we get closer to more into the Tom Holland Spider-Man. But yeah, I think that I actually do think they should change it up a bit. I think we've been successful, obviously, with that structure, but I want to see focus on a villain. I want to see who is going to be their Vader. I want to see who's going to be their Magneto. I'm interested to see who's going to stand out besides just Loki bitching and whining about how the family hasn't treated him right. I want more. I like Loki a lot, but there needs to be more than just Loki.
All right, that was the last one. All right, I said we'd save some time now for your live Twitter questions, and we're going to do that right now. Wendy, what have you picked out?
First one comes from Logan Geekster, who writes, I was wondering, now that all but one Infinity Stone have been revealed, what film do you think the last one will be revealed?
Oh, that's a very good question. As a matter of fact, the latest Crash Course video, which we were going to play this episode, but we've run out of time to do that. So we want to make sure we had time for Twitter questions. The latest Crash Course video we just did with Jeremy Jahns hosting it is all about the Infinity Stones. I have a feeling Thor Ragnarok is going to be the one where the Soul Gem pops up. Guardians of the Galaxy 2, a lot of people have mentioned that one, but I think Thor Ragnarok makes sense. What do you think?
I think Ragnarok makes the most sense. Yeah, there's going to be too much focus on other things for Guardians, so I think Ragnarok, especially the tie-in.
And James Gunn has already said there are no stones in my film, so he's straight up said the Infinity Stones aren't in there. Thor Ragnarok with the introduction of Hela, Soul Gem, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. What you guys think? I was like, if there is one where it's going to be with the gods of the world of Thor, so it'll be Thor Ragnarok, probably.
All right, what's next?
Jason Wade wants to know, how about a holiday movie commentary, Home Alone?
That's the thing. A lot of times, people are asking for DVD. Sometimes people ask for DVD commentaries, but they're with movies that not everybody owns, not a lot of people will have, and so there's not really a point for us to do a DVD commentary for if not a lot of our audience has that Blu-ray or DVD at home to watch along. In principle, it's a neat idea, but I just don't see us doing it. I don't know. Do you guys think we should?
Home Alone's a great idea, but I kind of
That's as good as any.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Well, It's a Wonderful Life. That's on like 50 times a day during the holidays.
Christmas Story.
Yeah, Christmas Story is on for 48 hours on Christmas, but it is on the premise of like, okay, guys, I'm counting on the fact that you guys have this in order for this to make sense for the time and the money that we put into it. So it's all about.
We ain't watching commercials together.
All right, what's next?
Faisal writes, hey guys, love your show. Live by Night has been screened for critics, but WB put an embargo until the 12th or the 21st of December. Is that a bad sign?
No, not at all. Remember, the studio at this point is trying to be strategic about when they want that buzz to hit, when they want those reviews to drop. They are being very strategic about understanding they don't want to proverbially blow their load now and then have remember, it's only opening in limited release in December. It's not going wide until January. So they want to make sure they time this right to get the most amount of pop for their money, and it just makes sense. So I wouldn't be concerned. Now, if the movie was opening in wide release on December 22nd, and they said the embargo lifts on December 21st, that would be a red flag. There's no red flag here.
I'm going to go the other way. Just because, and you guys know how much of a Ben Affleck director fan I am, I think that if it was as great as Argo or The Town or these, or my favorite one is Gone Baby Gone, I think that they would at this early they'd want critics to start talking about it because what we were just talking about, buzz, and there hasn't been some buzz on it yet. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to be terrible, but I don't know if it's going to have the impact that those other movies
But
did.
remember this, it is not unusual at all. Actually, it's very, very normal. By having a December 21st embargo date, that's 3 full weeks before the movie opens wide. That's actually further out than most movies embargoes are.
But it's also there's so many other movies that are potential contenders, whether it be La La Land or I mean just all these other movies that are coming out right now that all this buzz is coming out about it. You would think if it's a Ben Affleck movie, The Golden Boy, that they'd be like, no, talk about it. Start talking about it now, so we can once we get into that system of all these movies that are being talked about, that's one front and center, and it hasn't been.
I disagree.
It could be strategic too that it gets buzz after all the big holiday films. That all that buzz is going to get lost in anyway. So once it opens and then people are talking about it in between Christmas and the New Year.
I hope I'm wrong. I'm really looking forward to that movie.
Like, do you want the reviews to start coming out the week that Star Wars Rogue One opens? I mean, it's going to get lost. No, it's a totally different movie. But we'll get lost in all that shuffle. So I think it's more strategic. I mean, what do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, I think there's a different argument between like whether or not the movie's bad and whether or not it's a bad sign. I don't think the reviews being embargoed until the 21st of December, when it does get a wide release 3 weeks later, is a bad sign. Whether or not that means the movie itself is bad is a different thing. But if a studio were to do that, I wouldn't see it as a bad sign. So I'm crossing my fingers about it, but we'll see what happens.
Okay, what's next?
All right, the Arsenal channel writes, who would you play Conan? You can't pick Dwayne Johnson.
Well, clip our wings. My God.
Okay, well, it depends. If you want to go the strategy of the original Conan, where he's not even going to have his first line spoken until minute 23 of the movie, and probably only has like a very small select thing of lines, and you want really that to be a director's movie where it's all motion, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Triple H. The dude looks most like, I mean, his motif is the King of Kings anyway, so if he doesn't have to do a lot of acting, I would go with Triple H.
I don't want to see a remake. I just don't. I don't even want to cast a damn remake. I just want to see King Conan. I don't think there's a lot of people that can do it. So Batista.
Yeah, Batista wouldn't be a bad one.
I'm going to say The Rock, because I was informed on my review of Moana that they are two different people. The Rock and Dwayne Johnson are different. So I'm going to say The Rock.
Arnold.
Yeah,
we are owed as fans King Conan.
Yeah.
All right, last question of the day.
Wasn't Momoa Conan?
Yeah, but let's not talk about that.
How was that?
Don't talk about it.
We're not talking about
it's
that.
not
It wasn't
good.
his fault,
Okay.
but it didn't work.
Garbage.
Maybe it's a good thing I didn't see it. All right, AJ Rose writes, Happy Thanksgiving, Collider crew. What are your plans for the holiday this year and any favorite traditions?
Eating.
Lots of
Nothing's
eating.
more America than your plan right there,
That's
Harloff.
it.
We love you
That's
for
it. I'm going to watch some movies, watch some football, eat, sleep. That's it.
Repeat.
That's it.
I still don't really celebrate the Thanksgiving this time of year, but our plans this year is to go and spend time with Anne's family, which we're really excited about. That's going to be a lot of fun. Eat some good food and planning our Christmas trip back to Canada. So it's.
Yeah. I'm going back up to Washington where the air is plentiful, and I get to just flush my toilet out of spite just because we don't have a drought up there. I just do it on repeat. It's fantastic. But yeah, I mean, we get together with the family. We eat a lot of food. Everyone brings a dish. I actually dodged out of that because I'm flying up and I can't cook a dish. But yeah, just good family time.
Oh, correct me if I'm wrong. But so he tells me this story. Maybe I shouldn't be telling this because it's his story, but I'm going to tell it anyway.
All right.
So
I'm
you
confused.
were dating a girl from California, right?
Yes.
Okay, so he tells this great story
So this is a fable.
where
Supposedly.
his girlfriend from California was visiting up in Seattle, and they're in the bathroom brushing their teeth.
Yes.
And he left the water running, which you don't do in California
Yeah.
because of the drought. And she gives him a hard time. He's like, "You can't just waste water like that." And then what did you do?
Yeah. She turns off the faucet. She's like, "There is a drought in California. You can't do that." I just looked at her, and I did. I just flushed the toilet while I looked at her like that. And she was just like, "You're a dick."
Get out.
That's not why we broke up, but
Holly and I are just hanging at home and having a very quiet and fun evening, watching films, eating.
That sounds like
That's
an
good.
amazing
Yeah,
time.
right there.
All right, guys, that will do it for us for this installment of Movie Talk. Don't forget, no movie talk on Thursday or Friday because we are shutting things down here for the Thanksgiving Day holiday, and we will be back bigger and stronger than ever on Monday. I want to thank the guys sitting at the table with me, sitting over there, Mr. Jon Schnepp. Schnepp, where can people find you?
You find me and my mouth fully recovered after this weekend, and also on Twitter at Jon Schnepp, on Instagram, same thing.
Mr. Jeremy Jahns.
You can find me at Jeremy Jahns on YouTube, Instagram, at Twitter, where I will be live tweeting my food coma. I won't. And Facebook at Real Jeremy Jahns.
Over here, Mr. Kristian Harloff.
Answering some questions. Yes, Jedi Council will be up tomorrow. We also are going to have a Schmo show that will be going pre-taped, obviously, today.
Yeah, Jedi Council's going up today.
Jedi's going up today?
Yeah.
All right. Jedi
Special
Council
day.
going up today. Tomorrow is the Schmo show, and we do have a Schmo down on Friday, Drew McWeeny versus Matt Nose. So make sure you check that out. And I'm Kristian Harloff at Twitter and Instagram.
Miss Ashley Mova.
Eating lots of yummy foods on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, at Ashley Mova. Happy Wednesday, guys.
It is Wednesday.
Your sweater is so
Oh,
sparkly.
thank you. I'm getting the holiday mode.
It's a
you
Death
know.
Star.
It's like the Romulans.
It looks like she's invisible, and it's a map of outer space just on her, like from the neck down.
And, of course, Wendy Lee. Where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube at the Movie Couple channel, and on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchatting my food coma as well at Wendy Lee Zaney.
And you know what? You guys just have a wonderful, fabulous, friend-filled, family-filled time. Just enjoying your time, being thankful for all the things that we do have in this world. And you can follow me on Facebook and on Twitter simply at John Campea. We are very grateful for you guys. Thanks for making us a part of your day every day. And until next time, bye-bye.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.